How did we come here? Last year, you do remember, we also had issues on the Division of Revenue Bill that took us all the way to the apex court, the Supreme Court. Well, this time round, we still have the same quagmire, and counties have not received money for 2 months, the month of June and July. Why? Because of a controversial in the revenue sharing deal. Of course, the blueprint authored by the Commission on Revenue Allocation, CRA, talking about the third basis formula. How is it? How is it going to help counties? Why are some counties and, of course, some senators opposed to it? That is the discussion we are going to be having. And joining me on set is Game MP Elisha Odhiambo. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you. Thank you.
First things first, how did we get here? Last year, we still had the same problem. This year, we are having the same problem. Of course, the third formula basis of which we're supposed to be the third, now the third after we had the second, now we have the third. How did we get here? We were supposed to sort out everything by last year.
I think the issue squarely lies with the Senate. I think the Senate has failed Kenyans on this. This conversation that the country has currently should have been held long before we got here. I mean, it's fair enough that marginalized counties feel that they're not getting the right share of resources that they need. It's a fundamental right. But I think Senate needed to engage because one of their responsibilities is oversight, county government. So in the period there have been oversight in the last 3 years, they should have been able to put mechanisms in place so that this discussion they can actually even have with the Council of Governors, led by the chairman of Paranya. This is a conversation they should have had a long time and reach a compromise because politics is about compromise, is about considering the minority view, not necessarily the majority view. I mean, if you look at the formula, it favors Mount Kenya and even Nyanza, yes, because we have numbers.
Yes.
Should that disadvantage Northeastern? Should it disadvantage Coast? It shouldn't. Should it cause disunity in the country? No, it shouldn't. What should happen is, I think what the Senate, I expect this is what they need to do. Ask for the government to release 50% of money that is required by the counties, and they have a more in-depth conversation and discussion on this. Because ultimately, this bill will still come to the National Assembly.
Of course, and I'm quite sure you are waiting for it very anxiously. Yesterday, the chairperson of the CRA, Jane Kangai, did talk about it's going to be a little bit hard, but first of all, let's, if my director can cue that, let's have that clip on the CRA chairperson talking about the division of revenue and the third basis formula, of which is being opposed by the pastoralist parliamentary group. They also had a presser yesterday, but first of all, let's hear what the CRA head had to talk about yesterday on the same issue. All right, as we wait for that, of course, the pastoralist leaders also had something to say. Of course, looking at some numbers, I was looking at some numbers here. Marsabit County, 66,000 square kilometers with a population of around 460, which is 45 times bigger than a county like Kirinyaga, which has 1,500 square kilometers and about 600,000 population. But they do want equitable resources to also reach there. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think Troy, what you need to look at, counties like Kisumu, counties like Kirinyaga, they have private investors who can be able to set up private hospitals, who have built private hospitals, who are providing services, have been even able to dig boreholes to provide water to those citizens in those respective areas. But counties like Marsabit, for example, I don't think you have many private investors in Marsabit who are able to do private hospitals. So the citizenry lack essential basic services that they require. should we then use the numbers on a place that have been highly developed, on a place that has more investors pumping in money to provide services to citizenry? Should that disadvantage a place that has suffered since independence? On this one, my personal view, no. Yeah.
So the one man, one vote, 1 shilling basis does not apply here, according to you. It shouldn't.
From my point of view,
yes,
as Elisha,
yes,
the honorable member for Game,
yes,
no. I think our party position is that 1 shilling, 1 vote, because I mean, largely our party leader wants a compromise so that the country moves forward, so that we don't stay on hanging on just one basic issue.
Yes, and your colleagues did also mention that if we are talking about sharing of resources, we also bring something on the table. Look at oil, as in Turkana. Look at the pastoralist communities. They have lots and lots of livestock. They do contribute. Look at tourism. They said, if it's a matter of bringing something to the table, we are also bringing something to the table. But look at illiteracy levels in those regions. Look at the development, the infrastructure. They're crying, talking about we also need to feel the fruits of devolution.
I think they deserve
they have a solid case on that.
They deserve to feel the fruits of devolution and independence. I think they are right in that scenario. But talking about oil, Turkana oil, is it a mirage or is it a reality? I mean, we talk to exporting. If you ask me, Troy, I sit in the Energy Committee.
Yes.
Is a conversation the country will have soon. Yeah.
The Council of Governor Chairman Oparanya said that they would be pushing for application of the current revenue formula if Senate fails to approve the new one. But before then, let's have a look at what the CRA chairperson, Jane Kangai, had to say yesterday on the same issue.
We note that the equitable share allocation to county governments for the fiscal year 2020-2021 remained at the same level as that of the financial year 2019-20. That is 316.5 billion. This particular factor makes cushioning the losing counties impractical. The fact that the equitable share did not increase makes cushioning counties very complicated. This formula was submitted to the Senate in April 2019. The entire 1 man, 1 shilling vote was not in the media. It was not anywhere that informed this debate. That is why we are emphasizing we submitted this recommendation in April 2019. That is more than 1 year ago. The Commission remains available to provide technical input into the ongoing negotiations at the Senate.
That is the chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, Jane Kiriangai, and that is what she had to say yesterday. But on the same day, also the pastoralist leaders from arid and semi-arid regions, they had talked about we also need to feel this. I'm hoping that the clip is ready. Yes, kindly.
316 is too little. It doesn't do anything. But imagine other counties which have not had any semblance of infrastructure for 50 years. This is just too little.
I come from Wajir North constituency, and more than 58% of the population of Wajir North rely on water paths. They trek for distance of 5 to 10 kilometers to access water.
The landmass that these counties are occupying, the pastoral communities are occupying the northern region, is just left alone. And what you are considering here is the population. The country will not exist if you are not considering this landmass.
Semi-arid regions in this country have been excluded from decision making and deliberately denied access to key services by successive regimes, mainly through such inequitable sharing of resources formula until the advent of the 2010 constitution.
Therefore, hii mambo ya kutuambia sisi hatuna manambas na ni kweli wao ndio hawataki namba zetu ionekane, tunataka ikome na ikome kutoka leo. Kama wanataka kujua namba yetu, waende wafanye hesabu.
Let there be equality, let there be equity, and let it ensure that there is more unity in Kenya. Let it not bring about division.
Revenue should be allocated only to the numbers and not to the region or something. If the numbers are high, let them have more revenue allocated to them.
We want to remain a united country that speaks with one voice and that is concerned about other people.
The only equitable and fair formula of sharing our resources is 1 kilometer, 1 shilling. Because government does not invest on individual, it invests on land. Therefore, the argument that there are regions that will have 10,000 per individual and others 4,000 per an individual does not hold any water.
So we are asking tupewe pesa ya umma, and especially ile inatumwa kwa counties kulingana na idadi ya watu.
What we are saying is not about, it is not about us. It is not about Central Kenya. It is about equitable sharing of revenue in this country.
Those are views from a cross-section of leaders, Nairobi business community, leaders from the parliament, pastoralist parliament group, and also from youth leaders. Of course, divergent views there. Others talking about numbers. Okay, let's first of all look at the pastoralist MPs. Talking about if you want to see the numbers, go on the ground and see the numbers now. Talking about numbers, last year's census, they talked about a lot of pastoralists actually were not at home when the census was being carried out. They had already shifted, migrated as they usually do, but now they are at home. So if you want the numbers, come check out the numbers now.
I don't think checking the numbers now changes anything, because I believe when the census was done, I'm sure the architects of census must have used inferential statistics and data that is gathered from families. And that data, if you amortize it, it gives you exactly the numbers that exist in the country. I mean, we are about 50 million. And what is valid is what I've heard from Kiharu, that you use data as a basis for national planning for the development of the country. While that is valid, it is prudent that those numbers do not disenfranchise counties that have lesser numbers. I mean, look at Central Province, for example. You have a situation where very few people have enough land. That's why majority are buried in cemetery. But in a situation like Northeastern, we have an opportunity as a country that we can develop infrastructure and move Kenyans who are over-squeezed in smaller pieces of land to Northeastern, because the country belongs to Kenya. It does not belong to any ethnic community.
But with all fairness, Mheshimiwa, we're talking about not looking at even the larger Northeastern, as you used to call it, or the northern region. It has been marginalized since we gained independence. Actually, looking at the infrastructure there, looking at the, let's look at the roads, let's look at the education. They're talking about water right now. We shouldn't be talking about that when we're talking about Kenya being one thing and people being one.
I totally agree with you, but Northeastern has had a historical problem. One, there was the shifters during the Moi regime. Now during Kibaki and Uhuru, you have the issue of Al-Shabaab.
Yes.
So they need equally, even as they talk of wanting more resources, which I agree with them, they need to sort out their security issues, because the security is stemming from their own community. They are their own problem. So unless the leadership stops playing games, talks to the community and talk about how do we deal with security for the government to come in full to support and build infrastructure and build the county. Yeah.
The Council of Governor Chairperson Wycliffe Oparanya did talk about if the Senate is not able to reach an amicable solution, we revert to the old allocation. Do you think that perhaps can solve, because we are expecting a showdown in Senate today?
I think, if you ask me, I don't believe there'll be a serious showdown. If Baba has given instruction,
yes,
people will listen to Baba. What Baba said will carry the day. But having said that,
yes,
if you ask me, I agree with Oparanya, we can revert to the old system and have a more inclusive conversation on revenue share, so that we have an agreement of minds and weights, so that we have a sense of harmony. Because if you pass it and there's no sense of harmony, those countries still feel like they are disenfranchised. And that feeling does not go away, except if you go on the old model, then we use the time remaining to have a conversation and agree that once it's passed, those who will get less money in the current budget, the money can be given later if there's an amicable solution. Yeah.
And the crisis meeting called by Treasury CS Ukuru Yatani, Senate was involved, and the majority, the minority group wasn't involved in that discussion.
Yeah.
How can we interpret this? And even minority chief whip, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. did talk about the minority who are not involved in the discussions.
I think there'll always be a divergence of opinion. I mean, from where I sit, Treasury is led by a member of the ruling coalition. Minority does not belong to the ruling coalition unless it's made official. They need to play their role of oversight. That is a mandate that Kenyans gave them. Unless they don't want to do that, they can't play oversight if they are totally together in government. Yeah.
1 year down the line, we had issues on the division of revenue, which took us all the way to the Supreme Court. And looking down a year later, we are having the same problem. Last year we had the counties had not gotten money for 1 month. Now we are talking about 2 months in June and July. Are we staring at a bigger problem if this is not resolved today?
The truth is, the fact that it has delayed, Troy, is helping the Treasury Minister. Because what happens is the government has to collect revenue, and the revenue must be enough so that they can transfer it. As long as they have bought enough time now, I'm sure by the time now they release money, they'll have enough money to do that, and take cognizant of the effects of COVID. Yeah.
Some counties have argued that we already had the budget for development, so if you don't give us the money that we want, forget about the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. We are going to be overtaken by not only events, and especially now we have COVID-19. We had made the budget, so we really need this money.
Politically, they're right to say that they have made the budget, they need the development.
Politically.
But functionally, what happens, money must be collected. In fact, senators failed Kenya. Senators failed the country.
Yes.
I mean, what I expected the Senate to do on their oversight role, they needed to have visited counties and insist that those counties need to enhance their revenue collection mechanism and to have a proof system that they ensure that revenue collected by counties is protected from theft. And more importantly, you have counties that are only waiting for the government to give them money. They are not sustainable. They must be dependent. We must encourage counties to move towards being self-reliant. They must open other revenue streams so that there's money that they can use to run those specific counties. They can no longer consistently rely on national government throughout. I mean, if from where I sit, we should insist that each county should be able to raise revenue even to pay salaries alone. So that money that comes from government is development. And I've told you, Troy, politically, it's right to say that we need money for development, we have it. I mean, politically, the president gave an order that counties should pay pending bills.
Yes.
Troy, functionally, has it happened?
Not yet.
Yes.
Not all of them have done that, actually. Talking about the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga did talk about, of course, we need an amicable solution, and they're also in the picture because they have to talk to their members from the political divide so that they may support their agenda. That is the CRA. Of course, the government is backing the CRA recommendation. But somebody would argue that is not really democracy, because as leaders from Northeast, from arid and semi-arid regions, they would talk about, yes, you are our leader, but we are on the ground. This is a situation that we have on the ground. Would somebody interpret that as interference of democracy? Because if you are my leader and you tell me, now do this, and my people are suffering, I don't think that would be 100% democracy.
I think sometimes democracy is guided. I think what's happening now is
so it's guided
there's
democracy.
more of guided
Yes.
democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the works of Abraham Lincoln, democracy was premised on a government for, of, and by the people, where you have the public allowed to prosecute an issue, the government listens to the public, and you have I call it a team talk communication, so that you finally have a convergence of ideas before you can ideally make a decision on an issue. But as you remember, we have 50 million Kenyans. If you allow all the 50 million Kenyans to talk, you allow all the 50 million Kenyans to talk, how long will it take to make a decision? Take a long time. So sometimes it helps to guide democracy. Yeah.
Of course. That's an interesting one, a guided democracy. And
was a gift Kwame Nkrumah said.
Yes.
Sometimes when you want to help somebody, you must hurt them. It is not the pain you should look at. You should look at the intention of your heart. So I believe the intention of the President and Raila is intended for the country to move forward, not to stagnate.
Of course. There has been a lot of lobbying from both divides on what to support today, but of course we're going to be looking at that, but let's have our first short, quick break. Welcome back, and in case you're joining us right now, this is NewsCheck. I'm Ben Troy Njue. Lensa Odingo is our sign language interpreter, and today we are looking at the controversial revenue sharing formula, the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. And to help us unpack that discussion is MP Elisha Odhiambo. Perhaps back to our discussion, the lobbying. There has been intense lobbying from all corners. Of course, even the pastoralist parliamentary group yesterday was actually lobbying and asking leaders, kindly let us look at this manner in a sober way. Look at our place. There's no security. Infrastructure is shaken. Education levels are so low. High infant mortality. So there has been intense lobbying. Is it lobbying for the interest of this bill or for personal interest?
I think this has provided an avenue for Tanga Tanga to wake up. It has given them a chance to a rebirth, a sort of political rebirth, because now they want to be seen to be supporting what the counties that feel disenfranchised by this formula want. But largely, if you ask me, I've said and I maintain senators failed Kenyans, and I repeat that the technical commission, the revenue commission, should have been more vibrant in public and explained to the country what this formula is all about, what informed them of this new distribution of resources. They should have been more active in the public domain, because it means then there's a miss or a disconnect between the commission and the Senate. Yeah, that's why there's all this noise, because if the commission was to prosecute the matter publicly, maybe the public would understand that they are a neutral commission, they have no political affiliation, and that the wisdom that informed them of that decision is based on a number of factors other than population statistics. Yeah.
And talking of allocating revenue, you sit in the Energy Committee of Parliament.
Yes.
And one of the things that has come out is that some of the things like power or energy in Kenya, those regions also need to benefit, looking at wind, looking at the Seven Forks Dam, looking at the alternative sources of energy. There should be an equitable sharing of revenue between those counties that are hosting these resources and the national government. No, at least perhaps we will fill up the gap that is being left when we use the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling formula.
I think what Kenyans don't know, one, other than the county's budget that is supported by the state, we also have the national budget that functionally is for the whole country. It has no boundaries. It is purely based on the need assessment for the country in terms of development. Yeah, and I think even Northeastern, there's a lot of power infrastructure going on because they're being given an off-grid supply of power. And there's a lot of investment now on wind that's going up on Northeastern. And even in coast, the government signed a contract with the Chinese to do 1,000 megawatts of coal plant off Lamu. So these are investments that the government on its own motion decided that these are definite and important resource that can be developed anywhere. Turkana wind power, that is powering that part of Northeastern. And they're doing 300 megawatts. It was envisaged that they would do about 350. But functionally, when it gets to the grid, it's about 135 to 152 megawatts per day. And that should tell them that these developments have no association with the counties. They are driven by the national government. Even as we talk now, Troy, we are in a situation where we have about 2,600 megawatts. When Mama Mboga is cooking in the evening at 6 o'clock and even at 7 o'clock, when everybody is rushing, making tea, they want to rush, the highest consumption that we have gotten is 1787. So it means, as a country, we have an extra 800 megawatts lying idle. And what I think we need to look at is we need to have a new pricing model that creates an incentive for manufacturers to be able to manufacture cheaper goods. Because as we talk now, we have a cheaper power in Ethiopia, cheaper power in South Africa, and even cheaper power in Egypt. So any manufacturing plant here in Kenya can move to Egypt and can be able to bring their goods within a day. So what makes sense? What makes sense? We need to engage as a committee with Kenya Power so that they have a new price model for manufacturers and ensure there's attraction for them to use that extra power at night when all of us are sleeping.
Yeah. A big day for Senate and, of course, for Kenyans, because we are waiting to see how that pans out. What can we expect today? Of course, you've said that the two leaders have also talked to their people that we need to pass this. But what can we expect today after what we've heard from different quarters of the society?
There are two things that will happen. One, postpone the bill and use the old calculation.
We are on the 5th. This will be the 6th time, right?
Secondly, talk to Treasury to release 50% of county's budgets so that the country can move. I mean, you have a situation even business are coming to a halt. I mean, I read on Twitter, I don't want to believe it, that Hotel Intercontinental has given employees 45 days to be able to pack up and go home. I mean, something needs to happen. So, to stop the economy from going to a halt and from business collapsing, we need to release some money to businessmen and to the county so that they can functionally work.
Actually, that was my next question. Looking at what counties are going through right now, and especially now we have a new challenge of COVID-19, should we perhaps peg the money on something if we have to disagree, but everything should be running? Perhaps give them 50% of what we expect to give them, so that may continue running.
Yes, I think we need to give them money so that they can continue, so that the whole country can move forward. But looking at it,
yes,
my experience from COVID-19, I know that Kenyans would not like this. The government should take over the health function. The national government should take it back because it is inefficiently run by the counties.
So it was a mistake in the first place.
I think that was a big mistake. The government needs to take care of their citizens. That is a cardinal obligation that you cannot delegate. Yeah. Because if you go to counties, you find that ICU beds, I mean, you get maximum about 10. What if the pandemic, in a day you have 200 people? How will you decide who should leave and who should go?
Back to what the PPG were talking about yesterday in regards to their region, they also quoted the Constitution, talking about the Constitution talks about an equitable public finance system and also looks at the marginalized areas. Would they have a solid case because they can even challenge this in court?
No, that is true. That's true, the Constitution. The same Constitution confers on their representatives the mandate to talk on their behalf. Article 1 of the Constitution. Yeah. Gives elected members the mandate to represent, to legislate, and to oversight. Yeah.
And that basis formula puts health needs, of course, fiscal consideration. They have a lot that they are looking at in terms of numbers as opposed to the poverty index. Don't you think if we still remain on that platform, those places with high poverty index will remain having even bigger positive poverty indexes?
Remember in that calculation, which I think we have forgotten, that there's also appropriation for the marginalized area. There's appropriation of funds, other than the money allocated to the counties, that's appropriated to northeastern counties. That has it's been going on over this period. Devolution has been with us. Yeah.
How can we bridge that gap? Looking at last year, we had the same problem in terms of agreeing on the amount that is supposed to go to counties. And now we are on the same problem a year later. How can this be bridged? Because as you say, and as people are talking about, the two leaders expected, of course, to play a huge role in the decision that Senate makes today. How can we bridge this gap? Because they have used, as you have said, they are putting up at least a brave face and a considerable case.
I think what would happen is we need to appropriate more infrastructural funds to these counties that feel disenfranchised, because that would be done by the national government at the National Budgeting Forum by Parliament. It therefore means that counties like in Northeastern, who have huge chunks of land, once you do an infrastructure, even you resolve the issue of Al-Shabaab. If you go to Lamu, that will be the same. Because you find those counties like Lamu and Northeastern, that's why we have a problem of insecurity, because there's no good infrastructure for the police to use while going after criminals. So we as a country must take a position and actually get more funds to those counties that have not been developed so that they can develop at the same pace. These are the counties developed. You remember the Central Kenya and Nyanza, at the time of independence, they benefited because the first president was from central Kenya, and the vice was from Nyanza. So at that time, international community was putting a lot of funds in developing those areas. And so, I mean, it's a historical thing. We need to resolve it. Yeah.
Back to the census question, because since it was announced, so many factions came out to say this is not what is on the real ground. And of course, the leaders from the pastoralist region, they were on top saying, now this is not the real picture on the ground. And we have everything that we need, and we also have everything that comes with something. We have something we are bringing. So how is it that we are getting the short end of the stick?
I think what is important, I would say, Troy, as a student of inferential statistics, we should not use the argument of coefficient of determination by relating the population directly to the resources being given. We should use coefficient of correlation where you have two values other than population that in itself impacts on resource allocation. Yeah.
There were also calls for perhaps amending legislation for counties that are providing energy, as you've talked about. We have wind energy, we have coal, we have the Seven Forks, we have also geothermal and other alternative sources of energy. Perhaps a percentage to bridge that gap, because looking at these resources, some come from what the pastoralist parliamentary group are saying is that we have these resources, and we also need to benefit, looking at our infrastructure, looking at our health, looking at our levels of education are quite low. Perhaps we should change that?
This is in Energy Act 2019. When you're looking at Turkana,
yes,
we put a 15% mark on the resource to the community, Turkana community. And my argument was, even as we talk that the community should benefit, we should be cognizant that the national government invests some money. If you're a good businessman, Troy, if you invest, let's say, for example, let me see a basic one. You buy a matatu. A matatu that is plying between Nairobi and Murang'a. As a businessman, you want what? Return on investment.
Yes.
So those communities should know. The government should get first return on their investment, then you less that return, then you share the profits. Once you've recovered investment.
Yes.
Or you have a calculation where the government looks at, amortizes the period they're going to recover their money back, and in that calculation inputs the 15% that is supposed to go to the community. Yeah. But you then must have in that board, like if you have Turkana Oil, you must have a board that is consisting of about 4 people from Turkana, so that the community will know their interest is being covered by the representatives. Yeah. Right now, you know, the tallow oil. In fact, we have given them ultimatums to pack and go.
Why is that?
Because they have failed. They have not achieved their mandate. In fact, what they wanted is to sell part of their stake to another party. So what we think the government, we have advised they should do, is basically get a new investor. That's the position. Yeah.
And talking about Turkana, but we also have other resources. We have gemstones. We also have the coal down at the coast.
Hydro stations in Masinga.
And we've already talked about, I've heard you talk about, do you have any other legislation that we supposed to take care of that? It supports everything, including the Seven Forks?
I can talk squarely and fairly on Energy Act 2019.
Yes.
Because I was involved in it.
Yes, you are a member of that committee.
Yeah. So it's taken cognizance of all other resources in those areas.
So they are going to benefit?
Yeah, they are going to benefit.
Okay, fine. The Constitution also talks about the money allocated to counties can go as high as 40%.
the revenue.
Yes, of the revenue, of the country's revenue. Do you think we are going to achieve that, looking at what we've been having since we were talking about 15%, 20%, 30%? Will we be able to achieve this? And looking at every year, we're also having a quagmire when it comes to agreeing on what should go to the counties.
I think we can achieve, as a country, we can move to a level where we can give more money to the counties. But the counties need to demonstrate that the resources that are going to those counties are being put in proper use. You don't have a situation where you are building millionaires who are thieves in the counties. Yeah. That would be a bad scenario. I mean, you'll have a scenario where young people don't believe that you must work hard. We must build a culture where our kids in school, the Kenyans in universities must believe that when you work hard, you get the benefit of your effort. Because the current scenario is, if you see young men seeing people driving cars, even somebody who was a dropout of school has done a tender for the road and is driving a new car. I mean, somebody would ask, why should I continue being in school and I can drive a car without going to school? If that is their motivation. But I think knowledge is good, knowledge is important, but we must have counties that live by the very philosophy that created those counties, so that the services is given to Kenyans in those respective counties, not services pocketed in somebody's stomach in those counties. That is where the problem is.
And talking about revenue, we cannot talk about the money without talking about Kenya Revenue Authority and how we are going to increase the revenue. Perhaps in the revenue collection, there are so many loopholes, even in county governments, when it comes to revenue collection. What do you think can be done?
I think we need to
empower KRA, perhaps.
True, I think you're right. We should give KRA that opportunity to collect revenue, so that Kenyans will know exactly how much is being collected. You know, we are in a difficult environment now. Many Kenyans have lost jobs. Many businesses have closed. Where will KRA get money if the businesses have closed? The Kenyans who have been paying pay as you earn. I mean, I'm sure up to now we could be having about 200,000 Kenyans without jobs.
Yes.
If you go by what is happening.
Yes.
So tell me, what will happen? What will happen to the investors building houses in Nairobi? There'll be no people to stay, because if you don't have a job in Nairobi, you move back home because you can't pay your rent. You can't have your kids can't have food. Your kids even can't have tea. What they have is only water, and even that water you must pay for. Many landlords are locking their houses. Is that the solution? So I think as a country, as a leadership, we need to rethink on our best. I know that for sure Kazi Mtaani is helping, but is that enough? Kazi Mtaani is a job that is done by basically the young men who have left school, who have nothing to do. I mean, there are other, my constituency, even university students are slashing. Is it right? It's good for those whom we lose after Form 4 to do those kind of jobs. But I think there are better ways that we can use these people. Until we come up with a policy that if you have so many graduates in the village, we look at cluster their skills. And that's the work of the governor. Cluster their skills and say, yes, if we have engineers, I'm building roads. Let's get these engineers, do our roads, and pay them. Get the machines, let them supervise and do the roads, so that the country benefits from the skill that is inherently present amongst us. Yeah.
The two leaders, let's go back to the two leaders. Of course, they are playing a huge role, although backseat roles, but very powerful roles in the division of revenue bill and, of course, in the voting today. And you've gone on record even asking them, guys, we don't even form a government together because we are facing challenges that are really hard right now. There's the division of revenue bill. We have the COVID And of course, looking at things that had been earlier, we had the BBI and stuff. So you have gone on record asking them perhaps to come together and do something. And especially right now they are doing something, because I'm quite sure today the voting could be based on what these two leaders tell their men.
I think this country is much better when the president and Raila are working together.
True.
I think the president has been going through, I'm sure that thinking. I'm sure he's gone through a process of self-introspection to be able to evaluate what benefit would have working with Raila or not working with Raila. But I think he knows that if they were to form a government of national unity, the country will move faster. I'm sure the country is aware that this Kazim Tani is a Raila initiative. Yeah. Because it was there in the coalition of government between Raila and Kibaki. And at that time, many youths had bread on the table. And more importantly, the country was clean, especially this COVID period. If you have them cleaning the streets, cleaning the estates, then you have a clean environment that will be able to reduce the COVID pandemic, because it's about cleanliness generally. So from where I sit, I think the president needs to be in a hurry. He needs to be in a hurry to form a government of national unity for the country to pick up, or else the economy is going to grind to a halt.
And in that, you added a post-coronavirus agreement between a more solid post-coronavirus. Is it because of the economy? Because the economy is largely dependent on what the senators vote today.
I think that's dependent, but I mean, once you have a coalition of sorts, then you have better new ideas on how to drive your agenda as a president and how to lead the country forward. Yeah.
Away from that, the Commission on Revenue Allocation has been on the receiving end. People talking about they didn't involve all the stakeholders, and that is why we are where we are right now. You heard Madam Jane talking about the one man, one vote, 1 shilling wasn't on the table last year, but it has crept in. Do you think that actually the CRA needs to do more? Because last year we had the same problem, now we have the same problem. I talk about all the stakeholders should be involved. We have divergent views from the clip that we've just played.
I think what informed of the formation of the commission, the Revenue Allocation Commission, was that you wanted intelligent group of professionals who would steer the country clear of politics and come up with ways in which the national resource can be shared in a more equitable manner, so that the citizens would believe they are being taken care of. So I think they have failed in sensitizing the public on the report. Because what is being discussed is the report. Senators are either adopting or rejecting their report. If they reject their report, it means they have failed. Okay, and if, for example, you have a commission that is drawing salaries, and they bring a report that is rejected the Senate, is it necessary to have that commission? It's not. Yeah. So if they can't do their job, then transfer the mandate as well back to the Senate. Because counties squarely falls in the Senate, so that the Senate then can decide on how much counties. They can have all their political discussion, conversation until they agree. Yeah. Because now the argument is on a report by a third party. Yeah.
And kindly take us through the process of today. Of course, National Assembly will be watching very keenly on how it pans out today.
I think it's going to be a very interesting day. I think Kenyans are anxious. They want to see the behavior of their leaders. Others want to see the ones who will vote for or against. Others, of course, Twitter will be very interesting today, and even Facebook. and social media in general, WhatsApp groups, will be very busy. Those who are ready to blast senators,
yes,
and those who are able to praise senators who go on the opposite side. But I think the country is more important. The country needs to move. We are at a crisis. We are during COVID. I urge them to do the right thing.
What is the role of the National Assembly in all this? Of course, you're one of the members of Parliament.
Any money bill, because that's a money bill,
yes,
it will definitely come to the floor of the National Assembly.
So we might expect another surprise?
No, I think once, because it's taking a long toll on the Senate. Once it comes to the National Assembly, it will not take a long time. And you see now, Troy, now it's a difficult time because you can only have 66 members of National Assembly.
Yes.
If the Speaker knows I'm going to oppose, will he allow me to in the sitting? Yeah.
That's why I've talked about the role of the National Assembly, because
so
looking at even the...
I mean, now we are in a difficult scenario. You see, like now we can only meet once a week, like tomorrow, all Wednesday, Monday and afternoon, based on a Speaker's decision last week because of COVID, because COVID is all over. So because of the numbers, I mean, if you know you want the bill of the president to pass, what will happen? I'm sure the House leadership knows what they need to do. And I think that's for me, from where I sit.
Do you think so when it comes to the National Assembly, it's just a rubber stamp?
During COVID period?
No, after the
during COVID period or before COVID period?
No, now as we speak, because looking at the challenges that we are having.
Yeah, now it's...
And the two leaders, if they lobby their people to pass the bill,
yeah,
of course, the National Assembly, do you expect any changes, or it will be just a rubber stamp?
Maybe it could be modified, but I think largely there are times we disagree with the Senate.
Yes, like the way
the bill could come
year,
and we return it back to them. Then it gets back to us. Yeah.
They did, the PPG yesterday did talk about the order paper number 10 of 1965, talking about it resulted to high levels of illiteracy, poverty, lack of water, poor infrastructure, insecurity. Talked about a lot of things in this order paper number 10. Okay, I didn't have a chance to quite look at it intensely, but could you kindly touch on that?
The order paper of 1965?
Yes, order paper number 10.
Number 10.
Yeah, that is why
that was just before I was born. But
yes.
I think at that point, the country just got an independence. The country was looking to fight three main problems: disease, illiteracy, and hunger. So, I mean, food security, provide food security. Really, these are basic physiological needs that fall in the Maslow hierarchy of needs as basic needs for citizenry. So I think that then was the driving force in terms of the activities the government was to come up with and to budget those activities. So those are the driving challenges then. Now the challenges have totally changed. I think the challenge that this country has, one, how do you create jobs for the youth? Because people have gone to school and they're not earning. I saw a family, the Newmo family, who I think took almost an equivalent of almost 5 billion. They are IT experts. So they're listed as the fraudsters in America, one family. I mean, we are going in a situation where you'll have the young, brilliant men and women who have done IT, have no bread. What will they do? They just do what Newmo family has done. So we need the challenge, how do we secure young men jobs? How do we give them hope? Okay, and secondly, how do you ensure the whole country remains united going forward so that each and every citizen feels part and parcel of government? How do you do that? Then finally, which is more important, how do we get food on the table of the many Kenyans who had no opportunity to go to school well,
And
are living
especially at this time.
Yeah, are living in the slums. They have no food. How do you help? So this for me is something very dear. We have many Kenyans who are rich, and we have a correlating number of Kenyans who are poor. If only the rich Kenyans could spare just one day over the weekend and feed the poor. Do in a small way, do 100. Somebody else does 100, somebody else does 100. Then you have a beautiful country that people care for each other. As it is, the poor Kenyans, I'm sure one day, especially the ones living in Kibera, if this situation goes, they'll be going to eat in Kileleshwa and Lavington. The ones living in Madare will be going to eat in Mtaiga. They just come to your house and eat and go home. So we need to do something. It's a time bomb. It may not be in my generation, maybe your generation. So what we need to do is to ensure that your generation lives in harmony. Yeah.
Indeed, and in case you're joining us, this is NewsCheck, and I'm joined by GEM MP Elisha Odhiambo. We are trying to unpack what to expect today in the controversial revenue sharing formula. Remember, Senate is supposed to make a vote today at about 2:30, so keep it at Channel 1. We are taking a short, quick break, but we will be right back. Welcome back. This is NewsCheck, and today we are discussing the controversial division of revenue standoff that has been on the lips and minds of Kenyans for a couple of weeks and months now. And to help me drive that, I'm joined by GEM MP Elisha Odhiambo, who is also a member of the Energy Committee of the National Assembly. Coming back to our discussion, how do we enhance revenue stream? Because if at all we are able to boost revenue streams and keenly follow through, we are not going to be having a lot of impasse when it comes to dividing what we have already collected.
I think what comes to my mind, majority of counties have not planned their town development. They need to come up with plans. Once you come up with a plan for each and every town within your county, you can start with two towns or 2 sub-cities. Once you come up with plans and you give businessmen new model, they'll buy the plan from the county. Then they they do new buildings based on the provided plans. Those new buildings, the owners will pay rates to the county government. So the county government will start earning some money from the rates that are paid by the new developments. Secondly, you need to have a rate register so that all buildings within the small towns in the counties are listed so that they are able to pay rates. That is the only way, because you must ensure that people pay rates. Then secondly, the markets. You can do 2 fresh new markets. Those markets, Kenyans are willing to pay for rates, provided as they come to the market, there are basic services that are provided by the county. So basically, those are easier areas that they can collect revenue. Then they can equally, on food security, they can equally buy seeds for Kenyans. And at the point that the Kenyan does harvest, they recoup part of their investment and get some small money. So they need to think out of the box. They can no longer sit pretty and wait for the national government to give the money. That's a lazy man's way of thinking. So I think they need to wake up. If you're a governor, you are a governor because you are employed to do a job. The citizens believed that you can do a job. They did not get you that position to be lazy. The moment every time you are looking for revenue from government, you have treasury accountants from all counties coming to Nairobi every week that they need to talk to somebody in treasury to release their money. It's a lazy way of doing things. They need to think out of the box and think of other better ways of increasing revenue collection. They have all these people brewing changa in the village, the district commissioners in the village, and a number of police in the village. Their major task, other than security, they're busy working in those changa dens. I think the county government can regularize changa and control it so that it is done in a clean way, it is allowed, and then they can also collect revenue without giving the district commissioners and the police a leeway to be collecting protection rent. Then they need to talk to motorbike because it's another business. One, you must train them to protect themselves, whoever they carry, because they're killing many people at home. Ensure that they have professional certificates that they attain after you take them for training as a county government. This you can liaise with the sub-counties. Once the training is done, for them to use the roads that you'll try and make, they must pay for the usage. There are better, brilliant ways to collect revenue so that you have money that is coming in and ensure that the little that you also collect is not stolen. Yeah.
And still on revenue collection, you are also a member of the Energy Committee, perhaps relooking at the tariffs of power because so many businesses the young people are having right now, they are powered by geothermal power and other sources of power. Would that perhaps help because there will be more businesses and more revenue coming in?
Yes, there's been a serious discussion with the Kenya Power. Mm-hmm. They wanted us to allow them to increase tariff, and we told them it's not possible. Not at this time when Kenyans are going through a difficult phase. Mm-hmm. I am glad the president gave a directive that there will be nobody whose house will be disconnected. Why is ours more expensive than those ones? Is it because we took more expensive loans to finance energy infrastructure? Mm-hmm. So this is a question that we are debating as an energy committee. Mm-hmm. And we hope that we'll be able to be remembered to have done something for Kenyans.
I'll hold you to that. So if we expect from 12 to perhaps 8 or 7, as you have said. Yesterday, the CRA did talk about practically impossible to cushion. Actually, they were sympathizing with them. Practically impossible to cushion losing counties. That's actually the statement: losing counties in the current financial regime. Of course, it is understandable because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we might have other problems. We might have something else other than the COVID-19 pandemic. Will we always be talking about practically impossible each and every year?
I think there must be better ways
a permanent solution.
Yeah, a permanent solution. There must be other ways to think of how do we cushion those counties that don't get enough resources. How do we help them? Mm-hmm. I am glad, I think, that there's a consideration that you can allow a county to take a loan. I know that counties are taking overdraft from banks, but there could be a situation where they can engage the national government and get a national government guarantee for an infrastructural loan. I think ultimately that is the way it should go, because that's the way America has been able to develop, and that's the way the boroughs in England have been able to grow and develop. So we need to have a more efficient system, true, but we need to think out of the box and see how we help those other counties. They should remember the national government budget is also geared towards helping them. It's not just county government budgets. Because majority of people think about county governments. How much do county government get from national government?
Their businesses.
Yeah. I think, you know, if you look at the cost of our power, it's about 11 to 12 shillings per kilowatt hour. If you go to Egypt, it's 5 shillings per kilowatt hour. If you go to South Africa, it's about 4 shillings per kilowatt hour.
Meaning we are paying three times.
Yeah, if you climb up in Ethiopia, it's about 7 shillings. The question is, why is ours more expensive than those ones? Is it because we took more expensive loans to finance energy infrastructure? So this is a question that we are debating as an energy committee. And we hope that we'll be able to be remembered to have done something for Kenyans.
I'll hold you to that. So if you expect from 12 to perhaps 8 or 7, as you have said. Yesterday, the CRA did talk about practically impossible to cushion. Actually, they were sympathizing with them. Practically impossible to cushion losing counties. That's actually the statement: losing counties in the current financial regime. Of course, it is understandable because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we might have other problems. We might have something else other than the COVID-19 pandemic. Will we always be talking about practically impossible each and every year?
I think there must be better ways.
Yes, a permanent solution.
Yeah, a permanent solution. There must be other ways to think of how do we cushion those counties that don't get enough resources. How do we help them? I am glad, I think, that there's a consideration that you can allow a county to take a loan. I know that counties are taking overdraft from banks, but there could be a situation where they can engage the national government and get a national government guarantee for an infrastructural loan. I think ultimately that is the way it should go, because that's the way America has been able to develop, and that's the way the boroughs in England have been able to grow and develop. So we need to have a more efficient system, true, but we need to think out of the box and see how we help those other counties. They should remember the national government budget is also geared towards helping them. It's not just county government budgets. Because majority of people think about county governments. How much do county government get from national government?
The 316 billion?
Yeah. Yes, but how many percentage of the national budget?
It's less than 35%.
It's less than 35%.
Yes.
So what happens to the 65% of the budget? The 65% of the budget is held by the national government. So the county should remember, other than money given to the counties, that 65% that should be shared equitably by Kenyans. Yeah.
Of course, the red flag has been raised in terms of Kenya's borrowing ability and the cost of credit, and especially in Kenya, looking at the commercial banks. Of course, they are quite high. And now looking at county governments and the cash crunch, they are resorting to commercial banks. What should we do to actually minimize this? Because, of course, this we're going to eat a lot of chunk in the county's revenue, and, of course, what is allocated by the government. The cost of credit is quite high.
I mean, if you look at, in the period when Kibaki was the president, he didn't have so much appetite
for loans.
I think history, writers of history will record that President Uhuru Kenyatta with the deputy, William Samoei Ruto, took a lot of loans. How these loans will be paid, which generation will pay for them, God knows. But I believe the infrastructure loans were necessary. Nobody, no individual, no government will develop without loans. But we must go for the cheaper loans, the long-term loans. I think what has killed our economy, we went for the short-term loans that whoever has given you money wants the money quickly. We need to go for the long-term loans that are paid over years, and that gives the economy a chance to grow and flourish. That's from where I sit. Yeah.
And minimizing spending, of course, in counties is going to leave a big chunk to development. We've seen even in media, we're having counties which are not spending money the way they should, or they are spending on an unessential commodities or services. What can be done to seal this loophole? Because actually it is eating into the revenue, the small revenue that the government is giving the counties. Yes,
I think the members of county assemblies need to do their role. Their job is to oversight.
They are the senators there.
They are the senators there. Yes. They need to do their role to be able to oversight and legislate and help the counties grow. This business of MCS sitting together when they want money, they threaten the governor, they'll impeach you, is the wrong way to do business. The best way to do business is put the governor on check. Let the public appreciate what you're doing. Let the public not see you as somebody helping the government loot. Yeah. So I think it's until we get to that level where you are more intelligent MCS, people can prosecute issues, people can persuade you by a logical framework, people who are believable in public, then the country will be ready to grow. But as long as you have those MCS who do not see the logic of doing something different, things will never be the same. I've always maintained, and this is my position. Troy, you have a doctor, a medical doctor. You have a random MCA committee on select panel. And you have these MCAs who have not gone past Form 4, and they are interviewing a medical doctor. Is there a correlation? What questions would they ask him that fundamentally would challenge his intellect? Nothing. So I think we must think that even when we elect the MCS, when those committees are being formed by respective speakers, they must look at the background of MCS. They must look at the professional acumen of the MCS, so that you put somebody in a committee that will add value for the county. Because if you have a professor who is going to be the CEC education, and is being asked questions by somebody who did not even pass class 8, who somehow, I don't know how they do it in Kenya, who somehow made his papers and got himself to be an MCA. How would you ask a professor a question? For you, you'll be worshipping the professor. How did you get here? Because you're asking him, tell us your story. That is not oversight. Oversight would mean interrogating that particular individual to be sure that he can fill the shoes of a CEC education. So until we get up our sleeves, that's when the country will get on its toes. And I've said this, I know that this has been a hot discussion, and I said this was my personal opinion. My personal opinion, we need to have half, the MCS by half.
Really?
If you have 1,300 MCS,
yes,
let's have 700. Then, instead of electing a governor, let's say a governor of Kisumu or Siaya, we appoint professionals who are appointed by party leaders to run the counties. Then we have a regional governor now elected, who now supervises these appointees of the party to see the running of the counties. We have a more efficient model. Then we have a regional government where MCS and MPs can converge and have a discussion on a better path to ensure this country grows like the tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A flashback to 2019, when we had the Division of Revenue Impulse also, that actually went all the way to the Apex Court. I do remember one of the things that really came out. We're talking about even we have so many commissions that are really eating up into the revenue that we should be actually getting. Do you believe that we have a lot of so many commissions? Of course, the CRA is one of the commissions that we really need as a country because of allocation and revenue division.
I think we have too many commissions. Mm-hmm. That is a waste of government resources.
Yes, but that actually they came out, but nothing was done later. Yes.
SRC, we have Revenue Commission, you have this one of Budget Office. All this can be collapsed and one a more unified commission that does the work of those commissions. In that way, we will have a better efficient system, and we don't just create a commission to give Kenyans employment. There are better things Kenyans can do. Yeah.
And audit. Let's look at the audit in terms of so many counties, and do remember there were pending bills. These are one of the things that are really stalling devolution, and especially when it comes to the coffers. The audit that is being carried out in counties, sometimes you hear that a lot of money has been spent which was not supposed to be spent that way. And of course, if we are talking about the little revenue that we are having, less than 35%, 316 billion, there's a lot that can be done if at all we do good audit queries and actually hold people accountable.
I think what comes to my mind when you talk about audit, I'm glad that we have the new Auditor General. What does that mean? It means that she can sign off the audit reports for the previous year so that PAC committee can start their work. Because without that, then it's historical. But from where I sit, what we have is historical audit in Kenya. Somebody goes to audit after things have happened. What we need to have is a more proactive audit, where you have a sitting auditor, a government auditor sitting at the county, who is held accountable if any payment is done that does not meet the threshold of a good audit. As long as we are auditing after, there'll always be auditing so that you reveal thieves. How does it help you if you reveal those who stole last year? They have stolen. Then you go after them. Yes. How long does it take to go after them? It is important to have an audit that stops the theft at the source. A proactive audit, not a historical audit. And this is what, if you come through the scorecard, what scorecard tries as a management tool is to have a more proactive audit, not a reactionary audit that comes after. So that's, if you want to help the counties, we need to have government transfer auditors, and they don't stay in the county for long. Keep them every 2 years, a reshuffle.
Yeah.
Then you will be able to have a more proactive team that will help. Or better still, let's have EACC employ officers to work, mainstream the activity in the counties. So EACC can have 3 officers in each county within the county building. Even just the semblance or hearing the EACC officers there, that for me is a good signal. That people will know if you are gotten here, things will be serious. And because anybody who is a supervisor of those teams would know if there's no report coming, would know that already been compromised.
Okay, okay. Still on the same, remember our discussion today, we're talking about the controversial revenue sharing formula. Of course, the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling being muted over. But in the afternoon at around 2:30, we are expecting Senate to make their votes. And still on the same, let's now cross over to Mombasa, where our reporter Junei Karisa is on standby with some of the views of Mombasa residents on what to expect today.
Good morning, Ben Troy Njue. Just to continue with your discussion in studio, I have with me some residents of Mombasa just to give you some reactions on, of course, the discussion that is going on. I have with me Mr. Katana. You'll just bear with me tuongee tu Kiswahili ili tupate maoni mawili matatu. Tuambie tu jina lako itwa nani, alafu tuelezee tu wewe uko una support ama wewe upande wako ni upi?
Mimi si supporti.
Nani kwanza alafu
mimi naitwa Alphonse Katana Kalama, na mimi si supporti hii hoja ambayo inaendelea bungeni ya kupunguza mgao kwa counties zingine. Manake kitu cha kwanza hatujaelezwa sababu maalum. Manake ile sababu ya idadi ya watu hiyo haingiliani, kwa sababu hizi pesa zimeletwa zinagawiwa ili kufanya maendeleo kwa zile counties ambazo zilikuwa hazijatanuka pale juzi na jana. Na sasa hii huu mgao ambao ulikuwa unapelekwa huko tumeona umeleta kabisa maendeleo, hata sehemu zingine ambazo watu walikuwa wanaogopa kuenda huko, saa hii wanaenda huko. Mimi mwenyewe ninatembea na ninaona vile pesa za county zimevutia watu kwa sababu ya maendeleo ya kule. Kuna area hii barabara yenyewe pana kabisa inapita na msituni, lakini pale msituni kunatengezwa barabara. Na ndio hivyo ilitengezwa mpaka ikafika Nairobi. Wakati barabara ilivyofika Nairobi, ndio watu wakaanza kuhamia kule, kwa sababu kulikuwa kunaendelea.
Kuulize, kuna vipengele tofauti. Wanaangalia tuseme swala la afya kwanza, lakini ufukara ni kama wanne huko. Sasa ukisema kwamba vipengele hivi viweze kuzingatia, je, kama mwananchi umeangalia, manake ukienda hospitali unahitaji huduma bora, wewe kama mkazi, je, unaona hili ni pendekezo zuri ama uangalie ufukara kwanza ndio uangalie vipengele vingine?
Sasa unaona, zamani ilikuwa hospitali kubwa ni Nairobi. Unaenda hapa unakuwa referred to Nairobi. Lakini tangu huu mgao wa county uanze, at least umepunguza mambo kama yale. Sasa hilo ndilo jambo muhimu la kuangaliwa na hawa maseneta. Si kuangalia zile pesa ambazo zinakuja. Unaona, zile pesa zinatengwa kwa sababu ya kutatua matatizo kama hayo ya afya, matatizo ya ukulima, matatizo ya barabara, matatizo ya maji, matatizo ya stima.
Wewe hutaki zipunguzwe?
Sitaki zipunguzwe. In fact nilikuwa natamani sana wakati ule juzi walikuwa wanapigania zile zilizokuwa zinatolewa pia ziongezwe. That was in fact very fair. Manake sasa wameshajua kwamba tatizo liko wapi, na sahi wanaweza waka-identify ni wapi ambapo ni maskini zaidi ama umaskini ulikuwa vipi. Kwa hivyo ni wakati wa kuongezea county pesa ili maendeleo yazidi kupatikana. Unaona sahi hata hapa Pwani peke yake tumepata hospitali ambazo ukienda Msambweni iko, ukienda Kilifi iko, ukienda Taita Taveta iko. You see, those are the things that we want. Sasa wewe unaamka asubuhi unaleta mswada wa kuwa unafikiria hizo pesa, lakini ufikirii maendeleo ya nchi. What kind of leader are you? Kwa hivyo wale wanaoleta huu mswada hawaelewi uongozi na maendeleo ya nchi. Like wakae dakika 10 waelewe kwamba wako pale bunge kwa sababu gani. kwa sababu ya maendeleo ya nchi na uongozi. Unaona?
Kabisa. Wewe unapinga hoja hili. Wacha tu nipate tu huyu anielezee tu mawili matatu. Asante sana Bwana Katana. Tuambie tu waitwa nani na utuambie wewe upande wako ni upi.
Mimi kwa majina ni Achai Junior ama David, na mimi ni mkaaji wa Mombasa. Na kulingana na mswada ambao uko kwa Senate, kitu ya kwanza kabisa bila mwenzangu amesema kwamba hawa watu ambao wako ni viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa lazima pia waajibike. Kitu ya kwanza. Ya pili, hizi pesa ambazo zimepunguzwa na rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, naona jana amepeana pesa 29.7 billion kwa zile counties ambazo zilikuwa sikuna upungufu wa pesa, walikuwa wanalalamika. So mimi ile kitu napongeza ni kwamba vile Uhuru amefanya ni sawa, kwa sababu viongozi wengi ni walavi, wengi hawafanyi chochote. Kwa mfano Mombasa hapa tuko na barabara mbovu. Mombasa County hatuna hata shule boarding ya wasichana. Tuko na misururu ya kupoteza kazi. Sasa niambie, katika county zingine 47 kuna county zingine zatakana kuongezwa, kuna zingine hazitakani kuongezwa kwa sababu wengine uregeza pesa. Kwa nini county zingine zinaregeza pesa?
Huonelei kwamba pesa ziongezwe?
Mimi upande wangu heri tukae na hizo zenye zilikuwa hapo, kwa sababu ndio tuone wajibikaji wa wale viongozi na utendaji kazi wa kila county. Maana county zingine sinaregeza pesa.
Na ukiangalia vile vipengele ambayo hii kamati inaangalia ndio iweze kuangalia kama pesa zinagawanya vipi. Vipengele kama afya, ikiangalia mambo ya ukulima, alafu baadaye ndio anaangalia ufukara wa kila county. Wewe waonaje? Je, wazo hili ni sawa ama waangalie kwanza ufukara vile walivyokuwa wanaangalia kabla hii au gavi mwingine uanze?
Unajua muhimu hasa saa hizi tuko na COVID-19, hii pandemic ya COVID-19. Hasa sana tungetaka wabunge ama hao viongozi wawe wameweka pesa katika ministry ya health, ministry ya security na hata agriculture. Kwa hivyo mimi upande wangu ni kwamba mimi hata uraramika sana, kwa sababu viongozi wengi hawafanyi kazi. Lakini kwa vile wanataka maeneo fulani ipate pesa kuliko maeneo fulani, hiyo ni mambo ya kisiasa. Lakini katika sheria tunataka tuache siasa kando, tuweke utendakazi katika jamii. Kwa hivyo mimi wale wanasema kwa mfano North ni unapunguza pesa kwa nini? Barabara ni mbovu, shule hawana. Watu wanatembea over kilometers kuenda shule ya government. Wengine huko Kajiado, wengine Masaini huko ni msitu, hawana hata stima. Tuweke utendaji kazi mbele, tuache kulalamika ile pesa ni kidogo. Kwa mfano pesa zimepelekwa kwa county fulani, na hiyo county maendeleo haifanyi. Kama imetengeneza barabara, imeweka vitu kidogo kidogo, pesa zingine zimebaki. Kwa nini wanaregeza? Na hapa katikati tunasikia kuna supplementary budget kwamba umepokea bilioni 2, lakini katika utendaji kazi wako zimekuwa kidogo, wataka uongezewe. Unaweza enda ukafanya submission yako na pesa ukapewa. Lakini hapa hatuwezi kusema tunataka pesa mingi. Kwa nini wale wamepata mingi? Kwa nini wale wamepata kidogo? Hii ni high time ya viongozi kukaa chini kujua kwamba kuna sehemu fulani ambayo yatakana kupunguziwa, imeregeza pesa. Kuna sehemu fulani yataka maendeleo, shule, hospitali na barabara.
Ukiangalia hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa, je, unaona kwamba hii formula ambayo itakuwa inatumika itakufaidi wewe kama mkazi wa Mombasa, si ati kuangalia kama wewe unaweza jimudu kimaisha?
Unajua mgahao wa kaunti ya Mombasa, mimi hasa sana ni mkulima na ni mwanabiashara, lakini sichaona kaunti ya Mombasa ikinisaidia. Labda watu wengine ambao wako karibu na gavana. Kwa mfano watu ni wafugaji wa kuku. Sisi ni wafugaji wa kuku, tuko na majibwa, tuko na vitu zingine, ukulima, matoke niko nazo katika shamba yangu. lakini kupata mkulima kufika hapo wa county ni shida sana. Kwa hivyo hakuna usaidizi wote ambao naweza sema yuko agriculture, yuko kwa sehemu ya biashara fulani, hapana.
Kwa hivyo hii formula hii
mimi sioni ikinisaidia.
Sasa wewe ukikubali kwamba seneti iendelee na kaunti zingine ziweze kunufaika na wewe kama mkazi wa Mombasa hufaidiki, je, utakuwa umejikanganya?
Kwa mfano mimi ni mwananchi. Kunao viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa kuwakilisha mimi. Kama hawajibiki, mimi nitafaidika na nini? So ni hapa mimi nategemea yule amechaguliwa anisaidie mimi. Na yeye anajua shida ya watu ya hapa chini. Ikiwa Uhuru hawezi kujua, lakini kiongozi wangu MCA, mbunge, senator, hao ni watu wa karibu na sisi. Ikiwa hawezi tambua sisi shida zetu, hata nikiongea kwa vyombo vya habari, nani atanisaidia? Kwa hivyo sisi tunasema kwamba viongozi kwanza ambao wamechaguliwa wawajibike katika utendaji kazi. Na hata saa hizi kaunti ya Mombasa tunakaa hapa, tunaona watu wengi wanatoka huko wanakuja kupewa chakula hapa. Shida iko wapi? Kwa nini mtu mmoja apeane watu chakula katika kaunti nzima? Kwa nini county government haiwezi lea watu wake? Kama ni biashara ndogo ndogo, implement hii mambo ya biashara ndogo ndogo wa mama wapewe. Ndio wajimutu kulinda watoto wao. Kila siku watu wanavuka feri wanakuja kupewa chakula hapa. Na wengine sehemu zingine. Ni kwamba ile wajibikaji kazi ama utendaji kazi katika kaunti ya Mombasa iko chini sana. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema ikiwa mimi nataka haki yangu, ni haki yangu ipatikane kwa yule kiongozi mwenye amechaguliwa, na yule mwenye amechaguliwa aamue kutuwakilisha ambao wale tumemchagua. Nafikiri nimemaliza.
That was Nyachai Jr. just giving us some of his reactions concerning today's debate at the Senate. Hopefully the stalemate will be resolved. But according to the residents, one of them says the amount that is being disbursed to the counties is not enough to cater for the development projects that are currently ongoing here in Mombasa counties or at the county level. Another person is saying the county has been given a lot of mandate and responsibilities with the monies that have been allocated each year. However, development is yet to reach the common mwananchi. So of course it is a debate that everybody knows whether or not it is profitable to them or it is not profitable to them. Also, Ben Troy, the new formula that is being proposed, the variables that are being used to determine whether or not the monies that are being allocated, whether or not they will use the previous variables or the 10 variables that are there. Most of them, they say that no, we should go back to the system of looking whether or not a county has a lot of poor people, instead of looking at services such as agriculture and health and other variables. So, Bentro Njuo, let me hand it back to you, continue the conversation in studio. But what I know is the counties are in dire need of monies to be allocated to them, because they're saying that the services at the counties have been halted right now, and it is impossible to run the affairs of the counties right now because there is no money in each and every department. That is what we are aware of. So they are hoping that as soon as the stalemate is over, the county operations can proceed as normal. So back to you, Bentro Njue. In studio, you continue the discussion.
Thank you so much, Junei Karisa, live from Mombasa, sampling some of the views from the residents there. And I'm going to jump into the conversation. Passionately, the gentleman earlier was very passionate that he does not really feel represented by the leaders that he is seeing, and also talking about the delay in the disbursement. Actually, we're going to be looking at that in a moment. He feels not really represented well by his leaders. Talking about the MCs should stand there as we look up to the top leaders in the top leadership in the country.
I think he has a valid point. I mean, a very interesting conversation there, because he says he may not reach the president.
Yes.
But basically, he should be able to feel the presence of the members of county assembly, feel the presence of the member of parliament, feel the presence of the senator. So I think when I listen to him, he's more concerned of what are these three level of leaders doing? What incentives have they put in place?
Especially now.
How about their visibility?
Yes.
He's seeing a good Samaritan feeding citizens in Mombasa and wondering, where did the leaders go? So there's a disconnect from his statement between the leaders in Coast, which I'm sure applies the whole country, and those who voted for them. I think is a beacon and call that all of us, if you're elected, holding an elective office, the cardinal driving principle should be your visibility and staying in touch with those who voted you. They want to listen to you either on radio, they want your advice on TV, they want to see you practically in the village, combing the village to give food, especially this time of COVID. Yeah.
And it's a clear indication that, of course, now that we're having COVID-19 and, of course, the limited movement and everything, he feels that he is not well represented. And talking about also the more allocation, he's talking about there are no more schools, we need more schools, we need, so let's not reduce any amount to the counties.
I think from where I sit, from the two gentlemen who had a conversation with the reporter in Mombasa, they sort of are just talking about they still lack the basic amenities, hospitals, schools, roads. These are basic things. And these are some of services that can be provided by county government and even the national members of National Assembly. What I think is lacking is a conversation among these three teams so that they prioritize what needs to be done. There must be a conversation in each county between the county governor, the members of parliament, the senator, the women rep, and the MCS. If indeed any governor is serious about taking the county forward, I'm sure if you ask the governors how many times they've met their members of parliament, they only meet when they're going for election and when they're going for re-election. Yeah, that in that scenario you can't have the country move forward. So they need to have a more serious, robust conversation on how the ordinary Kenyan can feel them. Yeah, they need an interface with the voter. Yeah.
And speaking of delays in the disbursement of funds in the counties, that is a discussion that was also on the table yesterday. The COG, Wycliffe Oparanya chair, talked about the money that we are supposed to be getting from the Treasury. Sometimes it takes a while, and we have pending bills. That is why sometimes we have pending bills. This be an excuse, perhaps, by counties that when you delay our money, we also delay paying anything else.
I think those pending bills, from where I sit, the counties are holding pending bills as corruption dens, where you have a pending bill, you have done a job as an ordinary Kenyan. Somebody tells you, and so loudly, that if I have to pay you 5 million, let's share, give me 2 million. How possible on earth can you have a county doing such a thing? How possible? How will the businessman grow? You have a situation where they put the businessman like in prison. You can't move forward if you don't do this. So I think we need to redress those issues. And I think the president needs to be more firm and categorical and follow up on the payment of all those pending bills. And I'm sure if the whole government machinery looks at the payment of those pending bills, what will come out, Kenyans, will be unbelievable. So I think it's important to know that, but also counties must remember the government depends on collection of revenue before it's distributed. You can't want money today and the money is available. And for example, Wycliffe Oparanya was a planning minister. He knows very well. So I think there must be a good conversation between Treasury and governors and tell them when the payment would be done. There's something when you talk up, there's something called the exchequer. Always when you want payment, they told you the exchequer has not released funds.
Yes.
So the governors must understand it is a process. It does not happen in the day. But they need a conversation, or Paranya himself, as a chairman of COG, should engage Yatani, the Minister Treasury, and agree on a schedule on when monies are released, so that this to and fro is not there. Yeah.
A big test, a litmus test, I should say, for Senate today. You said at least you don't think that they've really exercised their mandate effectively, and perhaps today politics, rather than ideologies, are likely to play out, as the gentleman from Mombasa has talked about, politics in the division.
We need to work for our people. We need to help Kenyans. We need Kenyans to feel that this revenue has an impact in their lives. If you read those gentlemen talking, they don't care. They don't care about the revenue because it has had no impact in their lives. It has impact in a few lives of thieves who are marauding the country with big cars. Not necessarily people who have not worked hard to get money. I'm sure in each county you get a billionaire who has grown all over time because of working with the governor. So I think it's important we have mechanisms in place. We have systems in place so that we have an efficient system that runs the counties, and an interface with Treasury on when the funds are released, and an accountability mechanism that is proactive, that is not historical.
Yeah, and of course there were some fears that some people might decide to hide behind the BBI. Of course, it has the BBI debate has, of course, now resurfaced to derail a decision, of course, on the county allocations.
I think Kangata was a bit careless. It shows how cheap it got. BBI has nothing. There's no correlation between BBI and passing the revenue bill. What matters is leadership. Is there leadership? It means Kangata has failed Jubilee in leading his troops to vote. I've seen my brother David Murathe issuing a warning to 3 senators. He has issued to Oloitip, to the former leader of majority, Murkomen, and the senator of Nairobi. What he has asked them, they should remember that there are party mechanisms for de-whipping members. So if they don't vote in accordance to party's position, then there'll be a problem. Murathe has not said what the problem is, but I believe he has something on his pocket. Maybe a letter to give them at the end of today. But did we have to go up to there? No. There should have been a better mechanism. When we have a critical bill, that is a ODM bill being passed, normally the party leader, the only prime minister who has been here in Kenya, Raila Amolo Odinga, normally calls all of us to explain to us what is required of us. And we never have that problem. So I think the Jubilee members must equally remember that there's a party position. Parties are like clubs. The members must abide by the rules. So they must always remember that. And that there are punitive measures that put against members who don't abide by those rules.
And of course, the census question is still lingering, because somebody is talking about it's a game of numbers. Winner takes it all. Because we talk about 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling.
I think the census
is raising the same concerns. Perhaps the census. So we are many, we get everything.
I think the census was done right.
But it should not be pegged on the allocations.
I told you that if you use coefficient of determination, then you'll be talking about the number versus resources. But you should look at other things other than the numbers. And when I look at it deeply, Is it necessary to continue having the 47 counties? If you have counties who have fewer people, why don't you merge them? I mean, Nairobi County now is running without a governor. And the roads are being done. Major Badi is doing an efficient job, better than a governor. Do we need the 47 counties? Now that we'll be going for BBI. It is a time to think whether those 47 counties are serving us or not. If we realize that northeastern counties are saying there are fewer people, let's merge them. If we have 6 northeastern counties, let's have 3 instead of 6. They'll have more resources. They'll get the same benefit of allocation. And they have more money to run. That's from where I sit.
Yeah,
it is my personal,
like
it is my personal opinion. Yeah. We can have,
like
we can have
regions.
regional counties. We have 8 regional counties who are elected. Then you have appointees of the regional governors or party leaders who are professionals in their own right, run the counties. So they are answerable, one to their professional entity, and 2 to their appointee. In that way, we'll have reduced salaries. We'll have only one officer running the county. And we reduce the number of MCS into half. If need be, we could even reduce the number of MPs into half. This is something we need to debate. This is a conversation Kenyans need to have. All those 295 MPs, do we need them? All the 47 governors, do we need them? Do we need all that? Or there's a better way of spending our resources than spending resources on salaries?
We reduce the spending.
Yeah.
Indeed. And actually, I see our time is almost up, but we are discussing the contentious, the controversial revenue sharing formula. And of course, Senate is expected to make a vote today in the afternoon. Actually, people waiting with bated breath, hoping that at least we will find a solution. 2 months, the counties have not received any money. And if it goes on, then we'll be having a bigger problem that we had last year. Kindly, your final words.
There's a panacea. The government, through the Senate, will be obligated to release 50% of the county's revenue. That should be enough to run, even as this conversation continues. But I believe the Senate will resolve the impasse today. There'll be a solution. And I'm certain with the directions. You know, the Prime Minister was away. Now he's back. Baba Dawa amerudi, anajua udaktari ya siasa. So I'm certain the Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga has already given his advice and wisdom on this issue. So I think it will be resolved. Wow.
Indeed. And thank you so much for your insight and your time. You have been watching NewsCheck. Thank you so much for keeping us company. We were discussing the controversial revenue sharing formula. Of course, kindly don't forget to watch KBC Channel 1 in the afternoon. We're going to be relaying that as the leaders try to find a common ground so that counties are not starved of the crucial money. I have been speaking to Elisha Odhiambo, who is a GEM member of Parliament and also a member of the Energy Committee. Of course, I will hold you personally responsible. You talked about we should expect perhaps something in the energy sector, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time and your insight. I'm Ben Troy, and Byron Abuli has been our sign language interpreter for this afternoon. Do have yourself a brilliant afternoon.
Thank you.